It's time for the Saint of the Day! Saint Louis Marie de Montfort. St. Louis was born in January of 1673. From a very early age, he had a very strong prayer life. He was basically inseparable from the Blessed Sacrament and would go to pray in front of the Blessed Sacrament all the time. When he was 19, he traveled to Paris barefoot in order to study theology. And he basically sold everything that he had except for raggedy clothes and promised to live off of the charity of others for the rest of his life. At the age of 19, that's just graduating high school. At the age of 27, he became a priest, and for about the first 5 years of his priesthood, he served as the chaplain of a hospital. After these 5 years, he discovered what he believed to be his true vocation, which was preaching. And for the next 17 years, he would preach the gospel and convert thousands of people. When he preached, you'd be surprised that it was effective because he would preach about things like love or being poor, joy in humiliation, joy in being humble, or joy in being persecuted, joy in suffering for God. Those aren't things that people would normally be attracted to, but something about the way that he preached was so full of a fire that people couldn't help but be attracted to him. And I think it was because his preaching was really fueled by a love for God and God's love for him. One instance of this was when he preached for soldiers. So nice, big, strong, manly men. By the end of his preaching, they were weeping, begging for forgiveness from God, and just desired completely to turn towards him. Grown men crying because they had found something so beautiful. And they followed St. Louis' example. They themselves participated in a barefoot procession of prayer with St. Louis as a way of turning to God. Political leaders and people who were jealous of him constantly were trying to get rid of him, and they actually tried to kill him several times. A couple times specifically. Once he was poisoned and he survived, he suffered the consequences of that poison for the rest of his life. And another time, he was walking a particular route home. There were assassins waiting for him on this normal route, but for some reason he felt that he shouldn't walk the way that he normally did, so he walked a different way, so he avoided the assassination. Near the end of his life, St. Louis started 2 orders, the Sisters of Wisdom and the Company of Mary. The Sisters of Wisdom devoted themselves to the poor and to those who were sick. The Company of Mary devoted themselves as missionaries. So they would go all over the world. At the time of his death, those orders were tiny. I mean, like less than 10 people each. But after his death, they grew into the thousands. At the beginning of the 20th century, so the 1900s, the Sisters of Wisdom had 5,000 members. St. Louis' motto was totus tuus, which is Latin for totally yours, meaning all of myself is yours, God. Pope John Paul II used that as his motto for his papacy. And as you guys know, I love John Paul II. So it means a lot to me that John Paul II loved St. Louis. St. Louis died in April of 1716 and was canonized in 1947. St. Louis Marie de Montfort. Pray for us.